Alright, what's up y'all, it's LakerFan here. As you can see by the title of today's video, we're ranking every playstyle in tiers in NBA 2K26 after patch 2.1. So, there's been a lot of change in this game, obviously, and what I'd like to do with this video is bring a nice little informative style of vid to you guys of what my assessment is of the power of each playstyle in this game. So, you can see we have 17 different playstyles that I've deemed are like worth putting on this list. There might be a couple more that are like very niche and different, or if I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments if you feel like there's a style that I'm missing here. But as you can see, we have things of the nature of slashers, we have stretch bigs, lockdowns, for instance, small and big. We have a rim protector that I'm deeming is more of like a 99 block type build, whether that's a 6'11, 6'9, stuff like that. Big fading guards of like the 6'11 stretches that were dominating the game before patch, obviously. We'll be talking about the fading guards being low on this list for sure. Pure insides, centers that are shooters rather than a pure inside as well. Off-ball sharp being more of a two-way sharp that's not as much of a ball handler but brings defense and shooting to the table. We have the post stretch like a Tonic and a Joey, for instance. A pure post scorer, a shot creator, a pass first guard, a three hunting guard, and then coming back to the bottom here we have things like point center, point forward, and ISO guard as well. So to give some distinction on what these are, I'm allowing point forward to mean that it could be a guard that we're deeming is using screens or not using screens, and it's more along lines of the 6'8s and the 6'6 and stuff like that. Or you could also consider ISO guard to be the 6'6 and 6'4s that just don't use screens, essentially. It's a little bit, these are like a tad bit blended in together. Think of the point forward a little bit more like a 6'8 essentially, and then a point center more along the lines of like 6'10 to 6'11, whether that's more inside oriented or stretch oriented. We'll talk about that later in the video, but just wanted to give you guys a couple of little details on how this list essentially was created. And again, it's just the styles that I deemed were the most popular, at least the 17 most popular. Again, if you have any submissions that you'd like to talk about, maybe should have been featured on this as a playstyle, let me know. But anyway, let's get straight into the video. I hope you all enjoy. If you do, feel free to drop a like, sub, new channel noties, all good stuff. And like always, try this 1,000 likes. Okay, I lied. I accidentally put no fading guard on here, just like a smaller one. But as you can see in the F tier, we have fading guard, big fading guard, to just address pretty much the patch and how this completely destroyed this playstyle. It might be for the best, too, to be fair. It was running rampant in the 2K. It's crazy, though, how much of a 180 it took. It went from being by far the most dominant playstyle to by far the worst, if you ask me. If this is your only bag. Now, to be fair, I have other things like three hunting guard on this list. They will somewhat still fade from three sometimes, but not nearly as much. If you were someone that was truly only fading though, and that was your whole bag, it's F tier now. That is just a completely void playstyle entirely. It's not good. It has been completely nerfed. If you are coming out here taking shots like that consistently, you're probably shooting around 30% on them, if not lower, to be fair. And I'm telling you, like, I've been having teammates that are trying to fade from three still, where I'll pass them with my like 99 pass, dishmaster take, all that stuff. They'll have sharp take, you know, two-way tenacity. It's still hard to fade, even with all those things considered. They might have overtuned it a little bit, if we're being real. I don't think, for the sake of the balance of this gameplay, that anything being in F tier is good. What you're going to see, though, is besides fading, I think a lot what's on this list is balanced and very good. You might hear me kind of badmouth the pure insides a little bit on this, but besides that, there's a lot of good balance to these playstyles in every regard besides the fading. So anyway, just wanted to talk on the fading guards here, but obviously had to, you know, not put them very high on the list. Okay, so moving along next, we have nothing in the E tier, and we'll be moving up to the D tier. As you can see, we have post scores, the pure post scores, and then pure insides as well. Now, both these playstyles, unfortunately, have devolved into not being worth running in this game. I myself am someone who loves playing on pure insides in the past. And in this game, if you do not have a three-pointer in your bag, you're going to find it very hard to be used. Now, there are very niche cases, like playing with some of the best guards in the game. I mean, a lot of the guys that you see, they'll have a center sit and block very often because the best guards are just trying to create from three and send the big down consistently so they don't get double teamed or anything like that. The problem is those guys were made by the fading guards a little bit more. So the pure insides now see a little bit less viability because you need to hold the screens more to actually get your teammate open enough to actually get the shot off. So a lot more reading of passes and a lot more actually setting screens and stuff like that is necessary. So I think the block sit has devolved into not being good. And pure insides, it's tough because you can just have a high three-pointer off the cap breakers and just be a viable build anyway with the 78. I mean, you can really hit well in this game with 78 three-pointers. So to be able to do that off the cap is just too valuable to even really resonate with being a pure inside. You haven't seen me on a pure inside since I don't know, a week or two into the game pretty much, because I just realized 5 cap breaks into shooting is super powerful and way too powerful, all things considered. So it has made something like a pure inside not as valuable. And then we also have, for instance, the pure post scores. Post scoring in general, a little bit tougher in this game. I mean, the post spins aren't nearly as dominant as they used to be. Drop steps aren't nearly as dominant. You have to time your close shots on everything, so inherently close shots aren't nearly as dominant. I will say though, paint mashing is still a decent thing. I probably missed that playstyle a little bit. I would consider that to be a post scorer a tad bit. Paint mash is literally, I don't know if you could really call that a playstyle. It kind of is both of these at the same time, but it's tough to say, because at the end of the day, taking contested 2-point shots at a high rate of, like, you know, how much you do it in volume, not exactly what you want to be looking for. You want to look for wide open 2s or 3-pointers, obviously, in this game. Now, that has changed a bit though. I will say, we'll talk about it later in the, you know, the video, but a lot of playstyles are a lot more enabled than just to be hunting 3s and taking open dunks, because it's hard to get those open 3s and open dunks anymore. So anyway, just wanted to talk on this real quick on the post scores and pure insides. The post scores, just to tap on it one more time, we will talk about how post stretch is low-key just a little bit better, because I think to do it from a mid-range kind of area is better. Same with hop jumpers in the mid-range, fades in the mid-range, stuff like that. Obviously, I mean, it's not like we're saying a post scorer is doing this from 3-pointer or anything like that. My point is that I'm using the post scorer pure example as more of an inside post scorer that has some outside bag, but not nearly enough. And yeah, I just don't know if like a more inside based post scorer is necessarily good at all, and same with a pure inside center at all just isn't very good. It's tough for spacing, and like with how easy it is to afford 3-pointer in this game, you can't really get away with something like that being on the court very often. All right, next up in the C tier, all alone, we have a pass first guard. Now, I will say the C tier would have been completely void if it were patch 2.0. When it was crazy bumps and stuff like that, I honestly would have had pass first guards in B tier, probably not A tier, but maybe even A tier, because that truly did change the game so much. It was so hard to generate scoring as an on-ball, like, you know, player, essentially, where the defenders could just literally stand in front of you, and if you were willy-nilly with your dribbling and stuff like that, you would lose the ball. So to be a pass-first guard was a lot more valuable for those literally day or two. Now, it has obviously reverted. The bump steals are very non-existent once again, and I don't know, Classic community just had to complain about it enough to get it reverted, and it's understandable. If that was the, you know, true opinion of the majority of people, then oh well, you know, I guess that's how most people felt about it. I'm okay with it either way. I'm not really being salty. I know it sounds like I am, but not truly, like, you know, biased and opinionated in either which way about that. So my point is that a pass first guard has found its way back into the C tier of it's okay to have, not super helpful, but like people that are this generically or innately, if you will, just benefit off of a lot of these top playstyles actually being valuable. Like you'll see me really glazing the off-ball sharps in this game. The off-ball create, like, you're scoring through running around without the ball in your hand. They mesh pretty well with those playstyles. So even though it's not super dominant and powerful, if you leech on to, you know, some of these other playstyles, for instance, or shooting centers, stuff like that, you know, it can amplify you a little bit more as well. But anyway, moving along into the B tier. So what we've got here is a post stretch, point center, small lock, rim protector, shot creator. This is going to be by far the most diverse playstyle tier that we have in this. I mean, we have like a big man, another big man that's like a big man hybrid, a small lock, a big lock of like a rim protector essentially, that we'll talk about the difference between a big lock and a rim protector in a second here. But then a shot creator that kind of evolves past all playstyles, or like all build heights, I should say. It's more just the style itself. So let's get into this a little bit. Let's start with the post stretch. We'll just go from like top left to, I don't know, like, you know, cycle through here a little bit. Just touch on each one, not in any particular order. So anyway, post stretch. This is going to be for the types of people that have a really high 3-point or really high mid-range, and then the post control to go with it. Reference, if you've seen my videos before, Tonic Keyboard, for instance, like, you know, it's a very niche playstyle, but it's really valuable even still, especially for Pro-Am. Now, for threes, it's tough to say. I still think efficient buckets are really valuable, so to have someone that actually can do it at a really high rate, like a post stretch right here, for instance, you're shooting catch and shoot threes, and if you're not shooting catch and shoot threes because you can't really fade from three anymore in this game, what you can do is obviously take it down to the post or still be a somewhat shot creator in the post as well. It's tough because, like I said, there's a lot of mesh between some play styles here, obviously, but with this one, I just want to reference like a type of image you would think of as a player. So again, catch and shoot threes, post ups, and then some shot creator stuff as well with like hop jumpers, fades, but not quite as much as a pure like shot creator style would be. So to bleed that into why I think shot creators are also B tier, it's kind of because I think it's a similar playstyle, like I said. I mean, I assume you would still play a lot based on catch and shoots, but for a shot creator, I'd think of this more as a smaller version of this. Someone that's really shooting standstill threes or catch and shoot threes, and then is looking a lot to that mid-range, whether it's the fades, the hop jumpers, the, just crabbing into the midi and stuff like that as well. It's a little bit of a nerfed playstyle, but on twos, it's still extremely dominant to be midi fading and hop jumper and stuff like that all over the place. And same can somewhat be applied to the post stretch. It's just that obviously this is in a little bit more of a meta style, if you will, with like fading off of screens or something like that as well. So anyway, a little bit of a intertwining of playstyles there, but I just wanted to talk on both those. Point center is once again going to be two playstyles kind of bled into the same one. It's going to be like reference what me and Kitchen were doing essentially in like the first month or two of the game, well, pretty much month, where I'm on like a 6'10 that had high dunk while also having 92 O board and has the high pass ac as well with the 78 3-pointer. So point being, it's a 6'10 that can run point guard but can transform into a center as well. Now, what I also want to reference with this is if you are a 6'11 that has a lot more 3-pointer, for instance, yet you're running ISO, or you could be using screens even still as a point guard and then having someone setting you screens even though you're 6'10, 6'11. It's a little bit tough though. It kind of bleeds into the big fading guard build a little bit as well, but like obviously if you take the fading out the game. The thing is that it's a little bit harder to be a quick stop peak shooter and stuff like that, like when you're 6'11 and 6'10 and stuff like that. So it kind of works a little bit better in ISO essentially. So it's a little bit tough to say. But yeah, to be transitioning in back and forth between whether you're a screen setter yourself or using screens offensively or even just running the ISO yourself, I think the point center style is still good. The Giannis dribble style is still very dominant. I might even try and come back to the 6'10 for a little bit, but I've been really stuck on these 6'8s because you will see me talking about slashers and point forwards. It's going to be a big talking point right here. So anyway, to then start talking about these lockdown type builds, I want to once again kind of touch on the distinction between what a rim protector and a big lock is to me. So the big lock is a lot more switchable, for instance. It's going to be like still really high perimeter, 92, 85 steel, like probably more along the lines of like 84 block, 70 something interior, if not maybe up to like 80. Rim protector, I'm talking them 99 block, 89 interior D builds that have the legend paint patroller, high flying denier and stuff like that. Whether that happens to be you anywhere between probably 6'9 to 6'11. So rim protectors in general are not the most valuable thing to have on the court currently, but I don't want to discredit it entirely. I mean, obviously, it's still going to be great for jump contests. You can shrink the floor a lot in fives. If it's threes, again, you have like great chase down ability as well. It kind of, once again, segues into a big lock style a little bit if you start talking about like, what is the ideal thing to guard ISO with on threes, for instance. It would be probably a rim protector or a big lock. Small locks we'll talk about in just a second, but yeah, I mean, I still do think, even though it's not quite as powerful or necessary, I think is the better word for when like, pre-patch of the stretch bigs, like in the 7-4s and stuff like that. Okay, and funny enough, I kind of forgot about them to be putting them in the B tier. I don't think they belong in the A tier anymore. I kind of screwed that up myself. So yeah, anyway, to talk about the rim protectors again, they're not quite as necessary because 7-4s aren't nearly as good as they were in that season 1, before any patch had ever happened to the game or anything like that. And then now that fading is gone, obviously you don't have to jump at like contests quite as ridiculous either, but you can still bait like crazy. Like I was saying, you can shrink the floor, make it really hard on like teams to actually like, run their offense cleanly, and to be like baiting off the corner, but then like be able to recover back to the corner on jump contests is really important, and to still be a valid like paint defender as well in fives can be really helpful and useful. So let's talk about the small locks, and I'll come back to the 7-4 stretch bigs in just a second. Small locks, I'm considering this to be anything between 6'4 and like 6'6 when it comes to the lockdowns. Anything that's 6'7 and taller is going to be a lot more capable of like switching everything. These are for the people that are fighting through screens super hard. Now, before patch, I would have told y'all that these are like D tier builds, C tier builds at best. I think they've seen a bit of a buff though off the fact that fading is no longer in the game. You might think otherwise of that. You might think, how in the world does, the nerf to fading make small guards better? Because like you would think that you would have needed them more to stop fading guards. Problem is, I think nothing could have kept up with those types of builds, and you have to be able to switch on all screens. I think to come out here with like double 6'8s was way more important when it comes to guarding the fading PGs off of screens and stuff like that, as opposed to if you're trying to fight through everything on a 6'4. I just don't think you can get through screens that effectively. The thing is now now that that's gone and the only thing that the guards can resort to is quick stop shooting and like, you know, little peeks between the screens and stuff like that, you're seeing it impact the sides defense a little bit more, where it's not quite as necessary to play sides on everything, so big locks aren't quite as valuable in terms of their switchability. You can get away with having a small lock on ball a little bit more because you can chase, you can fight through screens a little bit more and actually try and recover to the PG, especially if you have like the speed and agility and stuff like that to keep up with them. So I think they have seen a bit of a buff, and I do think big locks have seen a slight bit of a nerf. It's not like it's, you know, like the builds are worse. I just mean that the playstyle is less valuable than it was pre-patch. So yeah, I think if you guys are coming out here with like a 6'4 lockdown that has like, I don't know, I mean, I saw Waff on one that had like 99 agility, 90 something speed. I think it was like 95 with like 99 steal as well. And he was going crazy with this, bro. I mean, honestly, it's quite a pest to be on the court now. It's just, once again, you can't switch on screens quite as effectively. So it is one thing that holds you back, and your rebounding versatility is not there either. So you have to fight through screens at all times. But again, I think you can get away with something like that now. I think like the limited shot selection that these guards can actually get to allows you to actually be a valuable playstyle. Because if you can just stop the guard from moving entirely and get in his face and get really like on him, it really will limit them in a major way. So anyway, I have small locks in the B tier. I don't think that's a diss. I think just the lack of switchability does leave them maybe not in the A tier even still. You could argue it though. You could argue this in the A tier. You know, I wouldn't hate you for that by any means. So anyway, moving along, we have the 7'4 stretch bigs in the B tier. This doesn't belong in the C, if you ask me. I think they're powerful enough to not be such a tier below everything that's also in here. And the thing is that they're still powerful offensively. It's just that their defense holds them back in a major way. Now on 5s, this is still plenty okay to be had on the court. I think you could even argue that it's good. On 3s, 2s, it's tough, bro. I mean, you can't expect a 7'4 to come out here on 2s and be able to guard one of these fading dudes from the midi and stuff like that. You're going to be a liability. Now, the thing is, maybe the small locks can try and bail you out. If you pair a small lock with a 7'4 stretch, it's possible, but like you can't really create enough offense to actually reasonably be on the 2s. You're not going to be efficient enough. So to generate 3-pointers in a 3v3 or 5v5 game mode at a rate where it's hard to contest you is, I think, a little bit more valuable to be a build that's this style. So I think 7'4s are actually in a really good balance state right now. If I see 1 and 3s, I know I have to lock in on them on the 3-point line. Now, the fact that I can just face guard you on a 6'8 or taller build and then like you don't really do anything is a little bit of a detriment to your team, but especially for how bad you are defensively. But it is still a threat. You do have to keep this in mind on the court or else you will get shot over. And obviously they're really good for starting 5, shooting over bots that are like, you know, sub 7'4 or just in general, even on Wemby, obviously dudes be coming out here on starting 5 and just shooting over people. So we all know the power of 7'4 stretch big is still there offensively. It's just its defense can get exposed in more PvP game modes, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. So anyway, that is our B tier right there. And let's go ahead and reveal the A right here. Alright, so as you can see, we have no S tier playstyles in 2K26. I don't think there truly is a meta by any means, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I think to have so many playstyles in the A and B tier is the perfect balance that you'd want out of a video game. I think you could argue that like buffing these up might make this like a better overall product, or that they went overboard with like the fades and stuff like that. So maybe to bring things closer to this C tier would be a little bit better for any future changes that you'd make to the game. But honestly, I think where we're at right now is perfect. It's so good for balance on the game. The lock height doesn't really matter quite as much, what you bring to the table. Small guards, big guards, they're both all of the same value. Shooting bigs are like plenty valuable off the fact that rebounding is important and stuff like that. Slashers are back as well in the A tier. 3-hunting guards are still good in the best hands. I will say, I think this as a build overall is like more in the B tier, but I'm talking playstyle, and people who commit to this playstyle are obviously about that life. So I still think they belong in the A tier as well. I don't think anything is truly meta at all. That's why obviously the list looks like that as it is. So let's start yapping a little bit about some of these playstyles. Off-ball sharps, again, as I mentioned in the intro of the video, I'm kind of referencing more like a 6'4" to a 6'8" build that has like really good defense, but still has like sharpshooter capabilities of shooting. Not a corner spot up like obviously a small lock or a big lock would be. I'm talking like a two-way sharp, essentially. So builds that come out here with really high three-point threat and dexing around off-ball and stuff like that truly don't have a lot of dribbling in their bag, but they're coming out here and just being a good shooter. Reference Bonnie, for instance, on my channel that I've been playing with. I think of him as an off-ball sharp a bit more than like a secondary ball handler, kind of. So I would definitely talk about a style like that. Things on wraps and stuff like that, moving around off ball on the court and just being a good defender while being an elite shooter. And catch and shoots are at an all-time high when it comes to value in 2K. I mean, like, it's easy to do and it's super valuable compared to fading and stuff like that now. So off-ball sharp in the A tier. You could argue that I think off-ball sharp is the closest thing in the game to S tier, unless you want to maybe say 3 hunting guard in like the absolute best hands possible. That is probably also S tier. Everything else I think does remain in the A tier entirely. So anyway, let's move along. Talk about slashers. They're so back. I mean, I'm talking like, it's not broken, it's not overpowered entirely, but they are in the mix for like actually being a powerful build once again. So if you're coming out here with the meter dunks and stuff like that, it already was good on the meter dunk pre-patch. It's just that there were so many buggy things. The random inexplicable small meters, they still exist, don't get me wrong, and poster machine being buffed up and stuff like that, it really is a good takeover. So that enables slashers even more. Thing is, it's not brain dead, it's not super like bailed out. I think it still takes a good bit of skill to actually utilize this playstyle a tad bit, but it's very doable, 100%. So I have slashers in the A tier. I don't think that's biased. If anything, I would, be trying to underplay my own playstyle if I were biased toward it, because I'd want y'all to think I'm better. Like, I'm clearly not trying to be on anything like that. I think that the playstyle is good. I think it belongs in A tier. I think it's better than a lot of these down here, personally. You could argue maybe B tier, I suppose, but I think the value of it is more than a stretch big or a shot creator or a post stretch at this current junction in the game that we're at. So I have it in the A tier. You could argue it's low A tier, but that's fine. Anyway, moving along, big locks. So we're talking 6'7" all the way up to like 6'8", probably 6'9", still kind of. Absolutely not any taller than 6'10" though. We're talking like people that get the on-ball menace, the elite levels of challenger, interceptor, stuff like that. So switchable, versatile locks. People that are coming out here and really still focusing on that perimeter defense a lot, but still having the switchability with like 80 plus rebounding, 80 plus block, 80 plus interior D, stuff like that. Yet it's not the level of block and interior D that a rim protector has, for instance. So slight differentiation right there. I think like, to go with the more perimeter defense oriented one of a big lock rather than a rim protector is a little bit better, and it fits the meta. And something like this, if you have 2 of them on 3v3, is very powerful, obviously. So anyway, it's still really good, but once again, you will find that these 3 hunting guards that are in the same tier as them will be looking into those peaks on those like sides defense that you play with maybe 2 of these big locks. If you play sides, if you play like the pre-switch defense that I've been talking about, they will try and find those little gaps in your sides defense that you can exploit or anything like that, or take advantage of the lack of speed that you have compared to a small lock and really get you in like windows where they can kind of take advantage of that lack of speed. So to kind of talk about the 3 hunting guards a little bit, I already did kind of, go a little bit in depth of that. But yeah, these builds are still, in the playstyle, I should say, more than anything, is still capable. But yeah, the 3 fading is definitely completely out of their bag. I mean, that is not even a question. But the people that are good with the quick stops and stuff like that and are still using screens to get open, they're still very capable. It's just that they're going to have to get really dissecting on offense as far as, is it double switch locks? Is it a small lock in the back end? Is it a small lock and a rim protector together? Can I shoot this shot even though the rim protector is like within jump contest of me? Obviously, the 3 hunting guards will still take dunks if they're not there, but it's going to be a lot more with like a block sit center. They're going to send their dude down on the roll, not really tell him to pop very often. It's going to be just the guard looking for a lot of threes and playing with a center that is able to grab a lot of offensive rebounds. So 3 hunting guard in the A tier still. Center that's still capable of shooting, absolutely a big play even still. The value of a center has really increased since this patch. The ability to set screens and slip when you're needed to, as well as like the rebounding importance is back now that shots aren't just automatic with fading and stuff like that. And I really do think centers make more of an impact on this game than they have for quite a while. Probably back to like the first week or 2, because real talk, like people being bad at the game early off and like not having, any dribble moves in their bag or anything like that, obviously enables centers. I mean, the more people miss, the more a center is needed in the game. The more people need a screen, the more the center is needed in the game. So when offense is harder, centers find themselves more valuable. It's about as simple as that. And I really do think the value of a center is back. Before patch, dudes could just sit there, hold their B button all game, and it wouldn't even matter if you slipped or not. As long as you're getting down for that rebound when your dude's fading from 3, it was good enough. So anyway, yeah, I think centers have absolutely seen like value in their playstyle come back as far as needing to be had a good one on the court. So moving along, we have ISO guard and point forward. Slight differentiation right here. A lot of the same thing though, to be fair. So ISO guard, I'm thinking like a Stizo, a Yadman, like, you know, the dudes that are coming out here dribbling like crazy and like really can cook from 3, but are more so just taking whatever they get, and think of them more as a dribbler and a playmaker, essentially. This is still a really good play style. It's absolutely still valid, you know, after patch. You don't really need to be a fading guard to be like capable of the ISO style, obviously. And then for a point forward, I'm thinking more along the lines of the same type of thing, but 6'8", or also if you're someone like Kitchen who's been playing on a 6'8", yet you still utilize screens. Point forward, just essentially saying a ball handler that is 6'8" is really what I'm trying to get at. And I probably could have put a title on it as far as like a build height, like I did a 7'4" stretch, but obviously that's a very niche play style. Point forward can be anything. You could even still be a 6'6" and be a point forward in some people's opinion, but you could be a 6'6" and be an ISO guard as well. It's just like, I don't know, how do you distinguish a 6'6" that uses screens versus a 6'6" that ISOs? I mean, one could be an ISO guard, one could be a point forward. So anyway, my point is that they're both pretty much the same, and they both belong in the A tier in my opinion. And an ISO guard could even still be a 6'4" for that matter as well. It's just that, like, you know, it's just the play style essentially. So I think it's still very good. I think like a lot of the people that play like that could be very valuable in 3s again. And yeah, I don't know if it was still the case. It was definitely still the case, but like competing with the absolute just fade demons before patch would have been a little bit tough for a lot of the people that like to ISO at PG. Now, I think they're on top on the 3s court. An ISO guard is absolutely like a threat. Same with the 3 hunting guard as well. It's just that obviously with the ability to compete, because it's harder to be these types of play styles, something like an off-ball sharp and a slasher together on the 3s court can actually have some good synergy and get some wins now, in my opinion. Now, I was still doing it. I mean, I was winning a really good rate, even still with the slasher and the off-ball sharp pre-patch, but it got to the point where I didn't really want to play it as much because it's holy crap. It's so much fading on the court pre-patch. So, again, we're in a good spot, fellas. This is a really good balance in the game. I couldn't be happier about the patch. Maybe I could be if they took the small meter dunks out that were like kind of inexplicably small sometimes, but that's me being biased as a slasher. As far as the balance goes, if they took that away, it'd probably be an S tier build. So I don't know, that's okay. It's okay to not be an S tier build. I think it's good if there's nothing in the S tier in my opinion, and I feel good about the fact that I didn't bias that in any way. I wasn't intentionally trying to have no S tier, you know, builds in this like play style. It's just that I truly do think that's what this game has come to, is that we have a really good balance on that top playstyle type of discussion. And if you disagree, you can feel free to leave your opinion in the comments, but I truly do think so. I don't think there's a runaway meta in this game currently. You could argue that when it comes to 5s, there is, I think 5 out is absolutely the runaway meta. When it comes to like 3s though, for instance, or just the general makeup of the game, rec center and stuff like that, I think all these build styles can function and flourish, but you could even argue sometimes the pure inside's good as well, but it's tough. I mean, not having the spacing for rec is definitely rough. But anyway, yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think they should buff up this fading and stuff a tad bit. I don't know. I don't want them to touch it because I feel like it's dangerous to be changing stuff like that, and it's okay to be in a world where fading guards don't exist. That's just my take. But also, I wouldn't hate them if they were truly capable of it. I wouldn't mind if they buffed it up to be in this C tier range. The problem is when you enable it at all, the playstyle becomes dominant. So it's kind of an all or nothing thing. You know what I mean? It'd be tough to find the right balance threshold as far as like what is fading guards being in the C tier or a B tier instead of like. It's been all or nothing. I truly do believe that they're F tier builds or playstyles, and then pre-patch they were S tier. It was a runaway thing. So it really is crazy if you could see how many like, you know, rungs down a patch made on this stuff. Like the biggest movers for sure would be, for instance, fading guards going all the way down from S to F. I wish I made a pre-patch video of this. It would have been really cool to kind of reflect on something like this and actually compare. But yeah, like, you know, before, I would say 7'4" stretch bigs went all the way from S tier, best build in the game, season 1, down to like C tier, D tier, after the shot contest buff happened. Now that offense is harder to generate though, they find their way back up a little bit. I would say small locks before patch were really bad, and like I said, were probably D tier, C tier to me. Now they move their way up to B. I'm trying to think if anything else got buffed up a lot. Probably slashers. I would like to think before patch, it was so useless to be someone that took 2-point dunks, like even efficiently for that matter, or not even, you know, to talk about the contested style of finishing. But I think slashers really probably have moved up. I probably would have put them in the C tier before patch. I think they find their way up into the A now. So yeah, I think the biggest movers are probably slashers. Off-ball sharps have found themselves more valuable too, because it's harder to create with the ball in your hand. So like they probably have been like B tier anyway though. So yeah, slashers, small locks, and then the fading guards, I would say, are the biggest movers of this video. And then everything else has probably moved at least like 2 at best, as far as like up or down 2 levels, maybe 1 level. So anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to drop a like, sub if you're new to notice, all that good stuff. Like always, try to one of 1,000 likes. If you made it to the end of the video and you want to show your support that you did, put your favorite playstyle in the comments. Search sports me all the way through. If you're a fading guard and you got nerfed, that's tough. But if you're like a pure inside, if you're a rim protector, shot creator, ISO guard, off-ball sharp, slasher, anything, feel free to put your playstyle in the comments. Search sports me all the way through. But anyway, that's all. Hope you enjoyed. Other than that, take it easy, man. Peace.